Good day and welcome to the next episode here on the Super Data Science YouTube channel. Today we are focusing on the correlation matrix and using Tableau. Now, what is the correlation matrix? Now, this is a tool that one can easily use to visualize the similarities between items in your dataset, and that's indicated by the correlation coefficient. Now, Tableau calculates the Pearson correlation coefficient, and that's also what we'll be using in our visualization. It's also very important to note that this is quite a sophisticated statistics tool, and I would suggest that you do some further reading and further understanding of these concepts before making any important decisions on the outcomes. Today's video is to showcase the method and show you how to approach this. It's also worth mentioning that this is only possible from Tableau 10.2 onwards, so make sure you've got the right version. And today we'll look at the easiest method. There are a couple of methods around, but today we'll start you off with the easiest. Let's have a look at the data. Right, so our data set is technology sales. What you'll see is we've got different orders for different customers during a 3-year period. Now, the items that were sold, the quantity that was sold of the items we've got in the last column, and also what brand it belonged to and category. Now, you'll see that some of the orders, like that one there, have more than one item sold or more than one type of brand sold, and that's how the data set is generated. Now, what we'll be attempting to achieve today is to find the correlation of the products to the brand level to verify on an order level what the correlation is between items being purchased. So if an order contains an iPhone, for instance, what is a correlation to it also containing a Dell? Now, this could be used for multiple applications within the organizations, and in terms of finding bundles to be put together or so forth. So this will give us our first step in achieving that. Let's however jump straight into Tableau. Right, so we'll connect to our Excel file, and as always, we'll just use the text sales data, and as you can see, it imports correctly. Then for this purposes today, we'll just be joining the same file to itself to get a Cartesian product, as we want to compare the different brands to each other from the same file. So we'll be linking or creating an inner join between the two versions of the file, or the two copies of the file, on the order number, as we are analyzing the individual orders, and as you can see, it has created it correctly. Now, do focus on the second copy of the data or the file. You can see it got a 1 there, and that relates to these fields over here. And you can see if we refer to any fields in this, or in this part of it, which is the secondary part of the file, you can see that we've got a 1 next to them and not a 1 over there. So that's how we distinguish between the order number over there and the order number in there. All right, so if we go to our sheet, what we are trying to achieve is to see between the two brands what is the correlation in the individual orders. So for instance, as we mentioned, we want to look at the Apple products. What is the correlation to having an iPhone? And could we perhaps look at bundling these instead of a different phone to be purchased? So definitely some commercial opportunities in there. And how we do this is to create a calculated field, and we will call this the Pearson correlation coefficient. Let's just fix that over there. So this is basically calculated by using the CORR function. And if we just have a quick look at what Tableau is giving us information around this, is saying it basically gives us the Pearson correlation coefficient of 2 expressions. Now, as you can see, the example over there, we'll do a similar kind of approach, and we know we need to have 2 expressions. So I'll put a comma over there, and let's start with the first expression. Now, we'll use level of detail calculations for this, and it's also an advanced topic, so if you don't know enough about it, maybe read up about it, but in the meantime, you can follow along. Now, we know it uses 2 curly braces, so what we can do is we can just say to include, now let me just type that correctly, to include the order number. Now, why do we do that? The level of detail is currently set at brand level only, and using the level of detail in this way, we also include the order number dimension into our visualization, because that's also at what level we want to analyze this. So as you know, level of detail calculation also needs some sort of aggregation, and we will be doing it for quantity. So we'll be looking at how many products being sold of a specific brand in a specific order compared to the 2 other orders. Now, that is our first part of our calculating our correlation coefficient, and for the second part we'll do exactly the same. So we'll follow a similar approach, and again we'll use include, and we'll again use order number, but this time around we will be using the order number from the second part of the file, which we joined in there. So looking, as I mentioned earlier, look out for the 1, and we'll select that over there. So it's a level of detail calculation, so colon over there, and then our aggregation. So again, we'll be aggregating, but again, we'll be aggregating quantity, but from the second part of the data set with the 1 in there. And that is our Pearson correlation coefficient calculation. You can see it's valid, so we hit OK and apply. And this is really easy now from here onwards to basically create this. You just drag that onto color, and it gives us a nice filled heat map of our entities. I'm just going to tidy this up a little bit so it's easier to interpret as well, and this will be ready for our audience a bit later. So let's do it right now already, and let's just call this also our correlation matrix. All right, so what do we know now? We can see that when it's a very dark color, if you can, let me just move it over there, a very dark color means it's either very high or very low, and the color indicates whether it's positive or negative. So in this case, you can see that they, for instance, when an Apple laptop is being purchased, there seems to be quite a strongish correlation to Dell to being bought at the same time. Or, well, you can look at later on, also for Toshiba, it seems to be quite negative as well. Not such a big correlation, or actually a negative correlation in that case. So, and you can have a look at it from any perspective. You can read it from this axis or this axis. But to make it a bit easier to be read, let's update the tooltip, and we'll just neatly make this tidy, and we'll just use both of these brands in our header. Well, we'll make a little header. Let's make that 16, and let's make it a nice gray color, and let's leave the Pearson correlation coefficient into our tooltip. We can have a quick preview there, and it's okay. So you can see now, if we navigate across to look at between MSI and case logic, there's a negative correlation between the two. Now there's also obviously another way you can do this. You can do this by circles or any other shape for that matter, where you can be creative in how you present this. To further improve our visualization, we can also remove this very dark blue over there, because we know that a correlation coefficient of 1, where we have Dell on the one axis and Dell on the other axis, adds no value. So in this case, we just create another calculated field, and in this we will just say same brand, and it's a simple test to make sure that if the brand is equal to the brand in the second part of the data set, it gives us a Boolean outcome, and we will just look for the falses. So we only want to see where they are different, and as you can see, it gives us a nice split between the two, and that just makes it even a bit clearer and neater. Let's also just fix that little spelling mistake over there. Now it's ready for our audience. And that's basically how you create your correlation coefficient. As I mentioned, there is much more to this in terms of the statistics. So do read up about that and find out a bit more before you make any important assumptions or any important conclusions. But super helpful in at least being able to visualize your correlation between the different variables. All right, well, I hope you had fun today, and I hope you'll be joining us next time. Do look out for some further exciting tutorials coming up, and do let us know what you think of this tutorial and what other topics you would like to see. Until we meet each other next time.